People ask me all the time, when do you start your puppies on Nuvet NuJoint DS? My response is always the same, as soon as I see them, because not starting them is simply not an option.
What is going on, guys? Friday Bully Talk, man. We're going to be talking allergies. Before we get started, wow. We got Rick Stott and Roscaro all the way from Canada. What's going on? We got Queen's New Blood. Queen's New Blood is excited. Look at this. Hope that back of yours is doing good. Actually, it is, man. And look, Queens didn't only gift one membership. They went ahead and gifted a second one. And for that, you already know what we're about to do.
Pues claro que sí, cabrón. Pues claro que sí, cabrón.
That's it. We do this every Monday and every Friday at 8 p. CST. We come in here and we deep dive on topics that are able to help you so that you can share with other people in your community. It doesn't matter if you're a breeder or you simply just have a dog or love dogs. Having this information and being able, I'm sorry, guys, forgot about my mic, and being able to share with other dog lovers, it's really important, man, because a lot of these situations that we're dealing with, got my mic on, the situations that we're dealing with, it affects pretty much all breeds, all dogs, and, we're able to get things up and going. Queen's New Blood, nothing but love for you, man. Appreciate you. Cody Bone, yo. The Q, David 33R, RGB, good afternoon. MJA, what up, fam? Coming in from North Carolina. I was going to say NYC. Freddie Straver, what's up, Bully fam? Let's get the knowledge. Thank you, Miss Fredia. You're always here. Shade Tree, another one that's always here. Hello, QBN Nation. FNL, Friday Night Live. Actually, it's Friday Dog Talk, but it's all good. I get it. Delvin Baker, hello, everyone. Listen, there's been an uptick in allergies. There always is around this time of year. And the uptick usually has something to do with the nutrition that the dog is taking in. Irregardless, if you may even be, not feeding kibble. You may even be feeding raw or cooked. Yet your dog is going to be showing signs of certain allergies and whatnot. And that's what today's live is going to be about. I want to deep dive into what are some of the causes. Thank you, Dustin Smith. Number love. Thank you, Jade. Number love, man. I want to get into some of the causes. And then also some of the preventions, right? The cause and the prevention, the cause and effect, that sort of thing. MJA says, I don't have DNA for my 9-month-old XL male. His ABKC pedigree says he's a white fawn in color, but sure looks like a tri-lilac to me. Okay. What do you want me to say, MJA? If you don't have an embark, we're going to run in circles here. And we're talking to allergies tonight, by the way. Real quick, let me just say this. I had made a short not so long ago, and I stated that one of the main allergies that dogs have is to beef and chicken. Then all of a sudden, it amazes me, man. I don't know where people's mind is nowadays. It's almost like they're disconnected with reality, and they sort of kind of tap in and then tap back out, I guess. I get comments like, I saw your barf diet video and you were feeding chicken and beef. Yeah. I guess what he was trying to say is if dogs are allergic to this, why are you feeding beef and chicken to your dog? My response is my dogs are not allergic to beef or chicken. It's as simple as that. When I say most dogs are going to show an allergy to beef and chicken, don't just shut the channel right then and there and go off running or sit there and, these keyboard warriors or whatever. No, you either listen to what else I have to say or deep dive, man. Don't just jump in, because you're going to get your butt caught on the door. Great topic. I'm dealing with it right now. All right, man, I forgot the name. Most hate. I forgot. You're going to have to tell me again, Most. Great topic. I'm dealing with it. Okay, MJA, my 6-year-old chocolate standard gets hot spots. Feed raw and kibble. All right, we're going to deep dive into that. New Zealand, hello. Your number one fan in New Zealand. Love to sunshine. Nothing but love. Appreciate you. Thank you. Fredia, I'm digging the topic. My girl JoJo has broken out the tiny bumps. I'm figuring it's allergies. All right. Makes it happens a few times a year. He's allergic to turkey. Okay. No allergies over there yet, especially when my blues happening. Okay. So when I say that most dogs are going to show an allergy to either beef, chicken, wheat, or corn, what I mean is this. Now, what I'm about to say, once I finish saying it, for those of you that love to be keyboard warriors, you can definitely respond to what I'm about to say, but at least listen to the logic behind what I'm saying. So one of the main reasons that dogs, or some dogs, are showing either beef allergy or chicken allergy has mainly to do with all the crap that's being put into both the chicken and the beef to either make it grow faster with steroids or growth hormones, or antibiotics or anything else fungicidal that they're putting into either the beef or the chicken, right? Because wolves out in the wild, through their, development and whatnot, or evolution, better yet, whenever they got a hold of a moose or a rabbit or whatever, they didn't have to worry about steroids or any of this other stuff. But nowadays, in order to keep up with food production, right, developed countries such as ours, not all of them, but ours, allow this kind of stuff. And so your dog may show up, the same thing that I just said for beef, it could be happening with chicken. So all of a sudden, you might have said, hey, you know what? I'm going to stop feeding kibble because it's garbage. And I agree with you. I prefer feeding barf or cooked over just kibble any day of the week. But you go to raw, and then all of a sudden your dog is breaking out and you're feeding chicken and you're following my video to a T. Well, guess what? Your dog may be showing allergies to the chicken that you're feeding. So the first step I'm going to have you do, if your dog is showing any type of chicken allergy, is remove the skin, right? And also make sure you're not feeding either beef or chicken liver. Why is that? Because just underneath that layer of skin that the chicken has, there's a slight layer of fat, and all this stuff may end up being stored there. Not all of it, but some of it. The great majority of it is going to be filtered, and therefore you're going to find it in the body's main filter, which is going to be the liver of the animal, right? So if all of a sudden you're feeding beef livers or chicken livers and you have an allergy that just doesn't go away, my recommendation is stop feeding that. In fact, I have said it 100 million times. I feed Nuvet, right? Nuvet Plus and NuJoint DS instead of any type of chicken or beef liver. In fact, I substitute it. I do that on purpose. For those of you that are interested in following this suggestion, I'm going to go ahead and leave my code right here. The green bottle is Nuvet Plus, is a multivitamin. NuJoint DS is the joint support. Both of them together are going to give your dog not just the best health as far as immune system, but it's also going to improve their joint health, right? Now, just keep this in mind. If you order both of them with my ordering code 513237 and you do auto ship, you're going to get an additional 13% off, and you're going to be entered to get a full year's worth of Nuvet and NuJoint DS. I don't care how many dogs you have. It's going to be a raffle. We do it every single year on the 24th of December. So just want to throw that out there. But what ends up happening is some of you are feeding kibble, And I'm just going to give you a typical example. You're feeding kibble, and what ends up happening is there are things in that kibble that are causing your dog allergies. Okay. It could be the beet pulp or the cane pulp or the chicken mixed with tocopherols or the beef mixed with tocopherols. All that is a preservative, right? What ends up happening is you then say, okay, let's go to the raw diet, which is going to be more natural. And then you run into feeding chicken quarters like I do, and your dog continues to break out or breaks out in a different way. Well, what's happening is that chicken mixed with tocopherols is no longer what's causing the allergy or the allergic reaction. What may be causing the allergic reaction now may either be that chicken liver or that chicken skin. So I want you to remove the chicken skin and get rid of the chicken liver. And I want you to feed nothing more than just chicken quarters, water, and your multivitamin for about 10 days. Just 10 days. Before those 10 days hit, probably around day number 6 or 7, you're either going to notice an immediate improvement or you're going to notice things getting worse. If you're noticing things are getting worse, what I want you to do is stop feeding chicken and stop feeding the multivitamin, okay, altogether, okay? And then what I want you to do is pivot and feed an alternate protein source, okay? There's another thing that baffles my mind when I post something, say, on Instagram, and people are like, well, you said you fed beef or chicken. What else can I feed? Well, you feed another protein source, duck, rabbit, moose, wild boar, whatever you could get, pigeons, whatever you could get your hands on. That's different to the chicken and the beef that's causing the allergies. It's really that simple. It's not complicated at all, right? And you start the animal. You can include turkey while you're at it. You start the animal on this new protein source, and the only thing I want you to give the animal is going to be water and that new protein source. Again, we're going to go for 10 days. If in 10 days I am not seeing an improvement, I know I have to pivot to another protein source. If I am seeing an improvement, say on day 7 or 8, then it's okay to reincorporate your multivitamin over here and see what happens. If the dog all of a sudden starts getting worse, then the multivitamin may be the one that may be causing an allergy. Okay. Now, Nuvet is very good. Okay. And only less than 2% of the dogs that are going to take it are going to show an allergic reaction. But if I was to say that there couldn't be one, I probably would be lying to you, because dogs could have an allergic reaction to just about anything, any ingredient that's either in Nuvet NuJoint or any other vitamin or supplement out there. Okay, so this is how you do it, guys. Simply water and alternate protein source. Make sure you're not giving beef liver or chicken liver. Okay, make sure you're giving a multivitamin. But if worse ever came to worse, you could sideline the multivitamin for about 7 days. It's not going to be the end of the world, and you can go from there. Let me catch up on the comments here. Shay says she's dealing with allergies. RGB, we're dealing with it right now as well for the first time. Okay, we're going to hit up on something else that may be causing the allergy, okay? Most hated native. You're going to have to repeat that several times, man, but once I get it, I'll get it, man. Most hated native. I ordered Nuvet yesterday. All right, man. Congrats to you. Welcome on board. Do me a favor. Do like other people have done in the past for me. Go ahead and take a before and after picture. Okay, take a before and after picture showing the improvement of Nuvet. Okay, it's only going to take you about 10 days to 2 weeks, roughly 3 weeks, to show an improvement. Once you've shown the improvement, go ahead and hit me up. I'll be more than happy to post it up here. Okay. RGB says it started on her leg and it's spreading to the whole body. Okay. Shade Tree is saying, I make some iodine and coconut oil last night and she woke up glistening and the bumps went down. Okay, good deal. Can it also be environmental? Yes, Jeremiah, absolutely. One of the things that you must realize is, well, here in Texas, you might as well say it's summer, right? But technically we're in spring. So grass, it's always reproducing, but it's going to reproduce even more during springtime. So what ends up happening is the very tips of the blades of grass, when your dog lays on it, right? They kind of puncture the skin, and then that's when you have them little red bellies with little, little pink spots or little red spots. And a lot of times all you got to do is just make sure the dog is not laying down on the grass. And it's that easy. If your dog shows a reaction to grass, one of the things we do here, you're going to have to look up dosages online yourself if you want to go that route. But one of the things we do is we give our dogs Benadryl. Benadryl is an antihistamine, which means it kind of tones down the allergic reaction. Okay. Is it something you want to give on a daily basis? Not necessarily, unless you have to. But if you could just sidestep it by not allowing the dog to lay on grass, that's even better. Jesse says, mine is allergic to everything outside and his food seems like it stopped there. Affinity DNA. Okay. So organic food is good. Sure. Organic food is good. Not just good. It's probably the best thing you could be giving a dog. You got to realize, these steroids that are being put into animals, when the dog consumes it, I don't think there's enough studies out there to show whether it affects the dogs or not. One thing I have experienced, and that's all I got, I could talk from my experience, is a lot of the majority of the consults I get online, the dogs are presenting allergy either on kibble or raw. Okay. Very rarely have I seen that somebody that's cooking the food, does the dog have allergies to it? So why is that? Why would you think that? One of my theories in my head is that when you steam food, for example, you got things that are evaporating, and I'm just thinking that maybe, I don't know, maybe either the steroid gets denatured when it gets cooked, it gets turned into something else, or it gets, neutralized or evaporates. I don't know. But for some reason, when people cook the dog food, there's less of an allergic reaction, is what I have experienced. MJA says, you always say chicken quarters. Do you cook it at all? I do when my bitches are pregnant. Look, let me just say this. There's a million ways to skin a cat. Everybody has their own preferences. My particular preference is that I like to not feed raw to my pregnant females. Now, I purposefully fed raw to the female I had when she had her last pregnancy, and everything went fine. So it's not something I can sit here and point at and say that's a bad thing. If you're feeding raw to your pregnant bitches and it's working out for you, great. My ways of thinking, and I don't know if you guys know, I have a medical background. I'm a nurse. My ways of thinking is, I understand that when you feed raw, you are also feeding parasites and possible, different types of bacteria that you wouldn't be feeding when it's cooked. And so because, not just the payload, better yet, the amount of pups that she has inside are really important to us, but also our female's health. And so in order to not put myself ever in a position where, parasites could be an issue while she's pregnant, I don't believe in, for example, I don't believe in deworming a female when she's pregnant. With excuse me, with anything more than, say, fenbendazole, which is only going to take care of things like ringworm. I'm sorry, not ringworm, roundworms, pinworms, little things like that. But my main concern is not even that type of parasite. My main concern is like an amoeba, like, chicken that might have eaten grain that, had poop on it. And all of a sudden now she's got coccidia and it gets passed on to my dog. That's what I'm concerned about, because that's going to pretty much nullify an entire breeding. What is the likelihood of that happening? Probably very low. Okay. But you got to realize, once you know things, you see things a little bit differently, right? So I don't criticize those of you that will do it. I'm just saying this is the reason why I don't do it, right? RGB says she was giving antibiotics. She's on day 5 and we're on different fish-based kibble. Okay. Antibiotics for allergies. Maybe she got infected because of a rash or something, I'm guessing. Nyla Granny says, what's the best protein to switch to? Okay, Nyla, I just spoke on that. If you're feeding a particular protein and that particular protein is not working out because the dog's showing allergies, then you need to switch it up, right? Take your pick: wild boar, duck, goose, I don't know, goat, whatever. It really doesn't matter. Protein is protein as far as the dog's body's concerned. In fact, dogs, and this is the other main cause for allergies, dogs, because of their evolution from the gray wolf or the wolf, they share 98% of their DNA. Basically, the amount of carbohydrates that wolves get in the wild is very minimal. Okay. So, anybody can make a claim and say, wolves are carnivores. And at the surface, you're like, yeah, it pretty much seems that way. But in reality, they're opportunistic omnivores, not just carnivores. So they will eat, for example, the stomach contents of the animal they kill. And a lot of times, whether it's a rabbit or a rat or whatever, they ate grass. Well, that grass ends up being consumed by the dog. I'm sorry, not the dog, the wolf. And therefore, they're taking in fiber and they're taking in vegetables. Okay, that way. Also, wolves will eat available straw or anything that's growing, whether in the canyon or prairie, wherever they're at. They will eat some of that, both to make themselves throw up, both out of habit, both because it tastes good, both because their body asked them for it. So if you ever seen your dog eating grass, a lot of people are going to say, well, that's an immediate nutrient deficiency. Well, that may not necessarily be true. A lot of times they tell you that because they're trying to sell you a product. I can sit here and say, if your dog's eating grass, Nuvet NuJoint. I've never said that, nor will I say that. Okay. Because dogs eat grass because it's either out of habit, it either tastes good, they're bored, or they're trying to make themselves puke. Right now, if I had a dog that was making itself puke by eating grass, and he was doing this repetitively over and over and over again, then I would immediately question what it is that I'm feeding this dog that he's doing that. Because the very first thing that's coming to my mind is, gastric juices are maybe coming up. You ever eaten something and you feel like you want to throw it up because it's not digesting right? Well, the very same thing may be happening to the dog, right? But for example, my dogs, they all chew on sticks and eat grass or whatever. And you know what it is? I have this female dog, and she has been retired since. It's this girl right here. Her name is Aruba. And what ends up happening is Aruba has a lot of bad habits. One of the bad habits that she has is she loves throwing herself in the mud at the very back corner of my yard. Because she has been retired, she is the only dog I allow to do this, right? She also likes to eat sticks and eat grass. That's what she does. Also, whenever I have a litter and I have a complication, or I want to separate the pups from mom, right? Because they're reaching that point in time where they have to learn how to make bonds with other dogs. I will use, okay, my girl Mama Aruba. And guess what Mama Aruba is going to teach that puppy right off the bat? We're going to eat grass, right? So it's not necessarily because of a nutrient deficiency. I don't see that puppy throwing up. I don't see the puppy looking feeble. I don't see the puppy, losing hair or showing allergies or anything like that. They're just eating it because, hey, Mama Aruba taught me this, and now it becomes part of the culture in my yard and the habit. So I'm not saying that it cannot be the case. What I'm saying is you need to take in consideration everything that's going on. Not every dog that's eating grass is doing it because they have a lack, because they're having a vitamin deficiency. That, to be honest with you, dogs don't have too much of the ability to be able to eat grass and break it down to the point where they can consume vitamins from that grass. So whoever's telling you that vet that's telling you that and pointing at Hill Signs diet on his shelf is full of it. He's just trying to sell you something, right? So just be aware of that. The Life of Miklo says, sliding into the DMs. What's good, Bully fam? Colorado in the chat. Pen and paper ready for this knowledge. Listen, no need for pen and paper. This is not a class. This is a conversation, right? So what I want you to do is, if you don't catch on to this the first time, go ahead and replay it again. Listen to it again. It's going to make sense to you, man. Queen's New Blood says, only raw whole food I get is from here today, dedicated to raw feeding for ferrets, cats, and dogs. Okay, very good. I'm going to say something too here in a second. Jeremiah says, can allergies or lack of be passed down? Okay, so allergies can be passed down. They definitely can. Okay, why is that? The immune system can be passed down. I'm going to tell you guys this. This is an excellent question you brought up, Jeremiah. So we're all aware, I've said this many, many times, that the mitochondrial DNA will be passed down only from mom to the offspring, right? Dad, the only thing that he passes that mom is not able to pass is the Y gene, right? And they're both able to pass the X gene. Mom's going to pass, she's going to pull from 2 X genes, and dad's only going to pull from 1 because his Y gene is just to determine the puppy's sex. Long story short, the mitochondrial DNA, even though it's not directly linked with the immune system, it does play a role. So what do I mean by that? What I mean is, if you show up to the breeder's yard and mom looks like she has a full-blown allergy, that might not be the best idea to get a pup off of that litter. Okay, because they're going to be getting that mitochondrial DNA, and it's not 100% assured, but it does have to do with the immune system. Now, it has more to do with the breakdown of energy, of sugars into energy. I get that, but it also has to do with allergies. So that's really important. So if you see either parent that has, patches of hair or whatever, it's probably not a good idea to go that route, but specifically with the mom, right? The other thing I was going to say is, I was talking here with a friend of mine. Mind you, I live here in the middle of the country, right? So I was talking to a friend of mine that's down here, and he breeds just about everything. He's bred rabbits, chickens, geese. He has emus running around his yard. Long story short, I came up to him and I said, listen, man, if, not saying I will, but if I decided I was gonna go ahead and breed a protein source for my dogs, which would you recommend I breed? Which is the simplest and easiest? He said, man, I'm gonna tell you right now, rabbit. Rabbit is the easiest thing to produce, and the amount of meat that they're going to produce in a 7-week cycle is like 3 or 4 times what a chicken's going to produce. So he's like, just, make sure you have enough female rabbits, and that they're going to reproduce 6 to 8, little rabbits per litter. And then, he was telling me how many days it takes for them to give birth and all that stuff. So I just want to throw that out there. If anybody, wants to produce their own protein or whatever, I'm being told rabbit is the way to go. V. Ferrer, friend and haters, hit that like button. There you go, man. Tell you what, haters, hit the thumb down button. There you go. Hit the thumb down button. And people that are friends and loving the live, give me a heart, give me a thumbs up. This way we could at least determine how many haters and how many lovers we got on, right? Adam Fields, good evening, Bully fam. What's up, Adam? Number love, man. Julio Santiago, evening, fam. You got it, man. Remembering Papa, I know tonight is all about allergies. Have you done a video on vaccine do's and don'ts? I haven't, but I've talked about it in several videos. I am not one that thinks that you need to over-vaccinate dogs. Now, I will say this. Parvo, for example, is one of those things that is localized to different areas of the country, right? Certain areas of the countries have more of it than others. I thought at first it had more to do with wildlife because about, I want to say either a year and a half ago, I'm sorry, my time frames might be a little off. I sent a puppy down to the border between Texas and Mexico. And the puppy ended up getting parvo. The breeder down there kept telling me over and over again that her area has prevalence of parvo. So I'm thinking like coyotes or, foxes, whatever type of canine interaction, or not canine, but canine related interaction that they have down there. They may be passing parvo amongst each other. But it turns out there's one city in the U.S. I know for a fact has a high incidence of parvo. This is just the one I know. There may be many more. But Indianapolis, Indiana, for example, is a city that, if you're going to be shipping a puppy over there, make sure you get your Neopar shot or any other parvo shots that you can in that pup with at least 3 weeks to a month so they could build immunity before you send them in that direction. Otherwise, you may be sending the puppy to its own death, man. 35 watching, 9 likes. It's how it always goes, man. Shade Tree, I give Nuvet every day to my daughter's baby bagel and my Excel American Bully. The pup structure has tightened up correctly. Listen, I keep saying it, guys. It's not that Nuvet and NuJoint DS is magic, but it is. I'm going to tell you what it is. What it is first of all, they have been formulated by scientists and veterinarians and whatnot to give your dogs exactly what they need. Because, for example, NuJoint DS is completely weight-based, right? There you go. The amount of wafers that is given is determined on the dog's weight. Now, this right here, Nuvet, right? Look, not only does it have vitamin A, E, and C, look at the minerals it has. And then up top, look, it even has shark cartilage up in there. Okay, look up the benefits of shark cartilage, by the way. My point is that what ends up happening is Nuvet and NuJoint DS is produced at human food grade level, right? This is produced at human food grade level. That makes a world of difference. The majority, let me make it a little bigger. Majority of supplements for dogs are made at, I forgot the food level that is called when you're able to feed level. My apologies, feed level. So you may be asking, like, what's the difference between one and the other? Let me give you an example. Human food grade level is the highest level that any food on the planet could be made as far as the FDA is concerned. Feed grade level, say there's a cow pasturing and that cow has some sort of illness, okay? You can't just kill that cow and bring it over here to a supermarket and sell it because you can only sell food grade level at the grocery store. However, because feed grade level doesn't require that, you could actually chop it up or whatever, ground it, do whatever it is that they do, and feed it to animals, no issues. So you see, that's the big difference. Nuvet and NuJoint DS, right, is cold pressed. It's not cooked. Therefore, the vitamins don't get denatured. That's why so many people are seeing immediate differences when they start feeding Nuvet. I'm talking about, look, this one within, what was it, 18 days, right? This other one I'm posting up is within 10 days. It is what it is, man. Some people call it magic. I'm letting you know why it is that it's working the way it's working. Jennifer Kepley says, so I had to find something that had nothing that contained chicken or beef, so I changed to lamb. There you go. There you go. So, you know, it may be, look, I'm not an FDA official or anything like that, but it may be that the same steroid they use on chicken, they use on beef, and your dog's allergic to it. I don't know. Or your dog may just be allergic to those two proteins, right? The other thing that causes so much allergies is the fact that dogs do not sweat, guys. They don't. And at the base of each hair, they have a sebaceous gland. And that sebaceous gland creates sebum, wax. Okay. So all dogs have mites on their coat. At some point when they were, being whelped by their mom, it got transferred over. So these mites, they go eat to the base of the hair. If you give more carbohydrate-based food to your dog during the time of the year that they have a summer coat, meaning that winter coat is shedded, and you notice it goes from being so dense to being less dense, and now you're gonna give more wax at the base of the hair. Now those mites start migrating from one part of the body to the other, eating all this extra food that's there and reproducing. When that happens, even the pH on the dog's coat where those mites are appearing can become acidic. Thus the reason why I talk about baking soda bath, why I talk about even a vinegar bath, believe it or not, in order to reset the pH on that coat or on the very skin of the coat. And to counteract that sebum, you also start feeding the apple cider vinegar either in the dog's food or in the water or in both, because that helps the dog digest more of the carbohydrates, and therefore there's going to be less sebum on the base of the hair, right? So we gotta keep that in mind as we move along. Julio Santiago, I feed raw. I had to take the skin off the leg quarters and bake it before the grind so he doesn't get the bumps. There you go, Julio. I like the fact that you're stating that. This is why I tell you guys, take the skin off. Okay, take the skin off. In his case, he's able to bake it, and it doesn't affect the dog. And like I said earlier, I don't have scientific proof, but I have noticed that the majority of the consults I get that cook their food, the reason that I'm getting the consult has nothing to do with allergies. There's something about cooking it that either neutralizes it as it denatures the steroid or whatever, the hormone that the dog's getting, that it doesn't affect them. The life of Miklo, been given Nuvet NuJoint DS since day one with both my dogs. Just turned 1 year old pocket American Bully and a 4-month-old Chihuahua Poodle mix. Thank you, QBN, on the auto ship. No, thank you. Thank you, not just for believing in us. Thank you for ordering the product. Do me a favor, Life of Miklo, if you could. If you have a picture, I know you said you're giving it from day one. At least show us what your dogs are looking at. I'll be more than happy if you send it to me on DM to post it up here, man. Sally Walton, my baby girl has allergies too, skin irritation and some hot spots. Okay, Soleil Walton, one of the things, like I just mentioned, if you're feeding a kibble, do me a favor. I want you to flip the bag and I want you to read ingredients. If you see wheat, if you see corn, let's stop right there. Wheat and corn are one of the most common allergies that dogs get. How do I know this? Well, think about it for a minute. Wheat and corn are one of the cheapest crops that we're able to produce. And it's one of the main things, or a lot of the things, that cheap kibble puts into their kibble as a filler, right? So I can tell you, never feed your dogs corn, because corn becomes instant sugar in the dog's body. So have you ever seen a 2-year-old on a sugar high? That's essentially what ends up happening to your dog. Where did I learn this from? I'm going to tell you. I have a friend of mine that's a dog trainer at a police academy. And he was telling me the reason that they make sure that the kibble that they feed their dogs does not have corn is for that very reason. Because a dog that eats corn and they get on the sugar high, they're more likely to misbehave than a dog that doesn't have it. So I'm just sharing the information, okay? And then as far as wheat is concerned, yeah, it's one of the cheapest things you can get out there. They throw it in there as a filler, sometimes more than your dog needs, and they end up getting allergies when they shed the coat. Now, look, guys, in winter, the dog's metabolism works obviously different than it will in the summer. In the winter, the dog is trying to keep itself warm if it's too cold. The dog does this through shivering and that sort of thing. But my point is, the coat health completely changes when it's cold, because bacteria, even mites, don't reproduce as much when it's cold than when it's warm. It's almost like a switch goes off and there's more bacterial reproduction and there's more mites. Why do I mention bacteria? Because when you're feeding too much carbohydrates to your dog during the summertime, when they change their coat, what's going to happen now is your dog, sooner or later, because they're making more wax at the base of the hair and they get a mite outbreak, it's going to itch and they're going to scratch. When they scratch, more likely than not, those nails of theirs in the back legs are going to do one of two things. They either were walking on soil and they picked up Staphylococcus aureus, which is completely normal on a dog's coat, right? But when you have it on the nail, you have it more concentrated. Or possible fungus, right? Depending where you live, how much water and that sort of thing. I live in a swamp, so picking up fungus is not out of the question in my neck of the woods. So when they scratch, right, they're not just scratching, they're now breaking the surface of the coat and they're transplanting that Staphylococcus aureus or that fungi straight into that broken skin. Now you have yourself an infection. Okay. So how do you treat an initial infection like that? Well, one of the best ways I feel that you can treat the dog all of a sudden starting to scratch in one particular spot, that's usually an immediate flag that you're about to deal with some sort of allergy tied in with some sort of infection. So what I like to do is I'll go ahead and get a little spray bottle and I'll put half water, half iodine, right? Make sure that the water you're going to put in is sterile. So if you could either boil it or buy it that way. Either way, I'll go 50-50. And where the dog is scratching, I'm going to go ahead and spray the iodine with water. And I'm going to go to the back feet, back nails in particular, and I'm going to make sure I spray that and spray it as clean as I can. Now, here's the thing about iodine. Iodine works great when it dries. While it's wet, it's not going to do anything. When it dries, that's when it breaks exoskeletons at a microscopic level, or even if there's a flea that your dog has on its body, once it dries, it'll crack their exoskeleton and let the contents out and the flea dies, so on and so forth. So just a good little tip I want to drop there, just a little iodine and water, 50-50, and a little spray bottle will work wonders. However, that's only going to treat the symptom. Now, to treat the underlying problem, if your dog is scratching incessantly and breaking skin, obviously there's an issue with what's being fed, right? Maybe it's okay to feed that in the wintertime and the dog doesn't have allergies. But when you feed that same thing in the summertime, remember I said their metabolism and their coat health is totally different in the winter than it is in the summer. So my recommendation would be to reduce ingredients to the basics. And that's what I started the conversation out with. If, say, for example, you were feeding your dog, say, chicken kibble, my recommendation is put them on raw. So transition them to raw, take off the skin, feed them just the chicken, right? Now, in my case, I feed the chicken and bones to any one of my dogs that are 5 months or older whose second set of teeth have come in. But also use common sense. If you own a Chihuahua, you're not about to drop a chicken quarter in front of it because it's going to be a problem. So if you could get yourself a grinder, that would be even better. And I would only feed that along with water and the one and only multivitamin I recommended, which is Nuvet NuJoint DS. And that's how I would sidestep feeding my dog, chicken livers or beef livers. Because of the stuff that they're already carrying that's already in there. All right. This is my first time dealing with food allergies. Okay. Yeah, Jennifer, it happens. It happens. Son of Jacob, why do bullies get this patch, I guess, over the tail? Huh. Look, it just may be the area where either the mites are accumulating in your dog, or it may be the area where their immune system is if it's an full-blown allergy where their immune system is either intercepting the invader or where it's identifying where invaders are. The life of Miklo, I was fighting skin allergies for most of my bully's life, but 3 months ago started giving him Zyrtec and probiotic capsules daily and have never had an issue since. Okay, I mentioned earlier Benadryl. Zyrtec is something else that I have given my dogs in the past as well. Would it be a good idea to have to give this on a daily? My recommendation is anything that has to be given on daily is probably not a good thing. He does say, though, that he is giving probiotic capsules. Now, that's the other side of the coin, which is another reason why I recommend Nuvet NuJoint DS. Nuvet NuJoint DS has prebiotics, okay? And it prepares everything to be broken down when it's coming through, okay? Sometimes what may happen is also your dog may need probiotics, okay, because it's not breaking down the food correctly, and then too much of whatever micro or macronutrient may cause intoxication. Let me give you an example. There's two types of vitamins. There's water-soluble vitamins that your dogs are going to pee out. Okay, you don't have to worry about it. You can feed vitamin C all you want. Worst case scenario, you're going to get maybe a mild case of diarrhea. That's about it, right? And the dog's going to be peeing day and night. But if the same was, say, with vitamin A, D, E, or K, that's different because that gets stored in the liver. And too much of that vitamin in the dog's body actually becomes toxic. Okay, so just wanted to throw that out there. Let me see here. I'm sorry, I'm going to have to skip a couple of comments. Let's see. Here we go. I'm going to call you Most, man, because I keep forgetting. So I'm just going to call you Most. Most says, I put my stud bully Dak on Hill Science sensitive stomach and skin, and his skin is getting worse. It's the chicken and potato blend. Man, I don't know if you've seen my videos that I made evaluating Hill Science diet. In my opinion, it's the worst that you could feed a dog. If not the worst, is up there. It's a bag of flour. It's what it is. And where I see where their stuff may work is if you have a dog that has a chicken or a beef allergy, and they switch them over to more of a grain-based diet, well, the dog doesn't show any more allergies. So, oh my goodness, this Hill Science diet is tremendous and is great and is this and that. You turn over, look at the ingredients, and you're going to see what I'm talking about. It's literally a bag of flour, all right? Life of Miklo says, RBG, that was my exact problem. Yeast, excessive earwax, itching, loss of hair, rashes on armpits. Yeah, growing hair, fixed with bath and E3 shampoo, QBN recommendation, and adding probiotics. Yeah, adding probiotics. And Life of Miklo, do me a favor, answer me this. Since you're hitting on a couple of them, you're talking about yeast, excessive earwax, itching, so on and so forth. Are you feeding the dog apple cider vinegar either in the water, in the food, or in both? Let me know. I really want to know. Perfect Storm says, good evening, QBN fam. Listening on the road. Wouldn't miss it. Thank you, man. Love for you. Appreciate you tuning in and giving us your support. RGB says, Rio Grande area is prevalent for parvo. The scary thing is that is all seasons long. Wow. Yeah, that really sucks. QBN New Blood Kennel says, side note, got my first try and can see why people love this pattern. It is sexy, man. It really is. I can't underestimate it. Most says, will Nuvet help with a slight underbite? More likely than not, no. And I'm gonna explain to you why. What you're really asking is, will Nuvet help with not bone growth, because it's going to help with bone growth, but it's going to help bone growth everywhere, right? What you're asking is, will Nuvet regulate bone growth in the jaw area? And the answer to that is not Nuvet, not any other brand can, because that bone length, or regulation of the bone length that she has in her underjaw has to do with genetics. So there's not a product in the market that's going to manipulate genetics for that. So unfortunately not. Let's see here. Congrats, Furman Broom. Let me go up. Okay. Furman says, confirm my grand champion Mac Litter earlier. We happy over here. Good stuff, man. Congrats, Firm. Number love, man. Appreciate you, man. We got Queen's New Blood. Only allergies I've ever got was from kibble from my oldest girl, Nature Menu. Stopped feeding it to her altogether. It was just her. Okay. Yeah, a lot of times, like for me, man, if I see a dog or a pup, all of a sudden start breaking out, I reduce all ingredients to a basic protein, water, and multivitamin. That's it. If I don't see improvement, right, then I'll change proteins, right, from chicken to beef, chicken to duck, chicken to lamb, whatever. If I don't see improvement there, then I'll start saying, okay, they may be allergic to Nuvet or NuJoint. And then at that point, I'll make the switch, right? I can tell you less than 2% of the dogs that I have come across that are on Nuvet have shown a Nuvet allergy. The beauty of Nuvet is Nuvet gives you a 60-day money-back guarantee. So if your dog starts breaking out on Nuvet for whatever reason, that's not an issue. You could always contact them directly. Yeah, Julio Santiago says, my dogs are on Nuvet and they eat grass out of habit. Yeah, mine do too. I let my dogs out. They're going to go eat grass, eat sticks. That's just what they do, man. And it's got nothing to do with them being not being fed correctly, having a vitamin deficiency. That's all BS. That's just somebody trying to sell you something. All right. What is the price of feeding raw versus kibble? Bombo Jenkins says feed allergies, ear infections. There you go. You hit it on the head, Bombo. If the dog has allergies on the foot and they're able to scratch the ear with it, what do you think they're doing? They're spreading that to here. Perfect. The price of feeding raw and kibble. Let me just tell you this. I've spoken to quite a few people. I guess I'm lucky that I live in Texas or my neck of the woods in Texas for that matter, because I'm able to buy 10 pounds of chicken quarters for $5.72. When you do the math, I'm paying 57 cents a pound of chicken, right? You could either add sweet potato to that, green beans, or carrots, depending what I'm feeding that day. When you do the entirety of the math, I'm under $1 to feed one of my dogs. If I'm feeding a bigger dog, say like Congo, for example, I'm going to feed him 2 chicken quarters when I feed, right? So in that meal, he will be costing me roughly, I don't know, $1.70, if that. If you look at kibble and you see per amount, it's way over that, man. I don't understand why people keep saying that they can't feed raw unless, again, that bag of chicken quarters is $12 in your neck of the woods in Alaska, and then I would understand. All right. BB Roddy says it's helpful to use Selsun Blue for baths, helps with fungus. Yes. Selsun Blue, Head and Shoulders, they have an antifungal ingredient in them. Absolutely. New Zealand says my Shar-Pei has ear irritations. A vet said it was from eating raw meat. I think he was trying to rack up the bill. That's exactly what they're trying to do. Come on, guys. I've been telling you guys, man. Haven't you noticed? Look, if you haven't noticed it, take your dog to the vet, and while you're there, take a look at the shelf. If they're selling any type of food, mention to the dog you're feeding raw. And I mean, not the dog, the vet. That vet, he or she is going to throw a hissy fit as to why you're feeding raw. And some way, somehow, at the end of the conversation, they're going to point at what they're selling at the shelf. Just is what it is, man. South Memphis Hood Garden says, yeah, I think my dog got mange, and I think it's allergy. What can I give my – okay, so mange is not an allergy, my friend. There's many ways that you can attack mange. I would suggest that you look at the videos we have with the baths we have. Look at the one that I have with chlorhexidine. You might want to go that route, okay? But make sure to do your research first. As far as bathing puppies, depending on their age with chlorhexidine, you got to be a little careful. But the adult, definitely, I'd probably be bathing with chlorhexidine. Evan S. Rawal just wanted to say, I'm truly impressed, or I can say amazed, with the knowledge of what you have. It's amazing to see that. Thank you for sharing this, Evan S. Rawal. Thank you so much, man. I appreciate you. My friend, it's just years of accumulation of trials and errors, of running into things, and just simply wanting to share it. My opinion is that this is what breeding is all about. We all want to produce the best American bully or whatever breed you have individually. But cumulatively, I feel that sharing the information is going to help the breed overall. And that's why we do what we do, and we've been doing it for as long as we've been doing it. Ear yeast, natural infection, natural remedies. Okay, so I'm going to give you a natural remedy, Salema. If it's yeast, natural remedy is going to be vinegar. Yeast does not want vinegar. Okay, so apple cider vinegar, for example. Say a dog has a yeast infection in the ear. What I would do is, I know I'm going to be giving vinegar, apple cider vinegar, but I'm going to be doing 50%, 50%. That's 50% apple cider vinegar and 50% water. Okay, you need to dilute it because apple cider vinegar may be too strong when it gets in there. The other thing I'll be concerned with is when I drop that apple cider vinegar with water in the ear, I need to make sure that that evaporates. Okay, we don't want moisture in the ear. Moisture in the ear is only going to make that infection worse. Initially, that vinegar is going to get in there. It's going to help a little bit, and the next thing you know, the bacteria the yeast may adapt, and now all of a sudden starts eating the vinegar. And now, because it remains being moist in the ear, or may cause a secondary infection. So the best way to counter that is you grab 50% apple cider vinegar, 50% water, right? And then I want you, or better yet, let me rewind. I want you to get a third of water, a third of apple cider vinegar, and a third of isopropyl alcohol, right? 91%. 91, not 99, 91%. And you either grab yourself a cotton ball or a paper towel and you go and you clean the ear with that. Okay. The reason for the alcohol obviously is for the evaporation purposes, and it's also going to help with the disinfection of whatever's going on in there. Raul, do you have to deworm and feeding raw? Absolutely, Miklo. Absolutely. When I'm feeding raw outside of pork, okay, there's two ways we deworm. The first way that we deworm is we make sure we throw our bags in the freezer we're not going to feed before that bag has been in the freezer for 22 days. Why is that? Because parasites have the ability of dropping eggs, right? And so it's been proven that when they are frozen for 21 days, both the adults and eggs are sterilized or killed or destroyed. And then we feed. Even though we do that, we still see, I can still tell through their poop that there's parasites or something going on. How can I tell? I can tell because I'll start seeing a little mucusy on the poop, maybe even a little mucusy blood on the poop. I know that there's something going on in there, right? So the next thing I'll do is every time we feed, we're always feeding garlic, right? Garlic is an anti-parasitic, antiviral, antifungal, antibacterial, right? So that's another way that we kind of keep everything down. Then what I do is every 30 days, we're going to run a dewormer, right? I mentioned fenbendazole earlier. The other one, Parentel Pomiate, is the one that we're going to hit them with every 30 days. The fenbendazole is the lighter one. We usually give those to puppies and not to adults. The Parentel Pomiate we give to adults unless they're pregnant. The ones that are pregnant will probably go with the fenbendazole. Good question, man. RGB says we're cut down to 3 things feeding: Nuvet, garlic daily, and fish kibble. We'll switch to raw, but we'll keep the Nuvet and garlic. There you go. Yeah, the Nuvet and garlic, man, it's night and day. Night and day. And guys, I'm going to tell you already, if you go to Google, it may tell you that garlic is, toxic for dogs, blah, blah, blah. Honestly, the original study they did in Japan, they were feeding the dog the equivalent of 13 garlic cloves. If I feed you 13 garlic cloves, more likely than not, you're going to end up in the ER, right? So what I'm saying is just do your research. Make sure you find dosage on there. I can tell you the dosage we feed. I'm not recommending it for you, but this is how we do it. We feed 1 garlic clove per 100 pounds of dog. So if I have, say, a 20-pound pup, I'm going to grab that garlic clove. I'm going to cut off 20% off of it, and that's what the puppy's going to get. Not only that, we prepare the garlic. So before we give it to the dog, we make sure it gets crushed or sliced, and we let it sit in air for 15 minutes. What ends up happening is alum, which is the one thing that affects dogs, has a reaction with air, and it becomes allicin. Now the dog can take it in without it being a toxic substance. Not only that, when you feed it in the appropriate dosage, I have never ran into a situation where my dogs were, I've never had a dog die from eating garlic. I've never had a dog have a reaction from eating garlic. So, and I've been doing this for 10 years. So that's all I can tell you about it. Raul, we need more recipes for cooked food. I don't want my dog to get bored. Yeah. Actually, those, you don't know it, but I want to do a series. Right now, we just did a series, if you notice, on colors, on dog colors and combinations and simulated breedings and whatnot. So now the next thing we're going to jump into is going to be more recipes. And I kind of want to do like a little series of it. Like if your dog has allergies, alternate recipes, if you're trying to get your dog to gain weight, if you're trying to get your dog to lose weight, and that sort of thing. So get ready. We're about to head in that direction. Prater King Bully says, has any ever compared Nuvet with Canine Super Supplements, ingredients wise? Canine Super. Okay, I used to be sponsored as well by Canine Super Supplements. I had to stop. For those of you that have been following me for a while, you're well aware of what happened. I stopped because all of a sudden the ingredients that was promised initially, all of a sudden were not consistent. And so, for me, that was a problem because I stood here in front of you guys and I recommended a product that I was actually feeding my dogs and it was working for them. But out of nowhere, out the blue, one of the main products that it had, I believe it was bone marrow. I could be wrong, but all of a sudden stopped being on there. And that type of inconsistency is unacceptable. So therefore, that's the reason why we stopped that product altogether. Dave Klein says, how much apple cider vinegar should be added to the dog's water? Listen, I would say 5 drops from a dropper for a 100-pound dog, right? So say, for example, a gallon, no more than 10 drops for a gallon for a 100-pound dog. So take it from there. That's how we do it. Thank you, Raul. You got it, Salema. Number love. South Memphis said, yeah, they're over 8 weeks, and I've been doing neem oil, coconut oil, and feeding them apple cider vinegar. Yeah, good luck with that, my friend. They removed an ingredient, tripe. Okay, it could have been tripe, RGB. If I remember correctly, you very well could be hitting it on the head. And tripe, for those of you that don't know, typically come with a lot of probiotics. So removing tripe from the ingredient list was a big deal, right? The Life of Miklo says, Raul, what's all the pros of feeding garlic daily? Also, I've never used apple cider vinegar in his water. What's the benefit to that? Okay. The benefit of the vinegar, I'll start with that first. Remember I told you that on the base of the coat, on the base of the hair on the coat, there is a sebaceous gland that will make sebum, will make wax. Well, the dog doesn't have the ability to sweat, just like the pig. So they have sweat glands all the way down where their paws are at. One of the ways that they also secrete an overabundance of carbohydrates is going to be through that base, but also at the base of the hair. Apple cider vinegar aids in the body's ability to digest and break down carbohydrates. So feeding that on a consistent basis should reduce the amount of sebum that's going to be growing on that base of the hair. Thus, you get less of a mite outbreak and the pH levels on the coat remain at a healthy level. That's the reason for the vinegar. All right. Let me see the other part of the question. Feeding garlic. Oh, that's simple. It's an antiviral. So viruses, right? Parvo, for example. I don't know in my area if there is a prevalence of parvo. I can tell you in my yard there isn't. I've never lost a pup to parvo, right? So why is it? All of my dogs, adults, pups, la-di-da-di, everybody's on garlic. So that's an antiviral, right? It's antibacterial. So say, for example, I tell you guys, I buy the 10-pound bags at Walmart for $5.72. Lord forbid there was a batch that came with some sort of bacteria or whatever. Well, my dogs are prepared. They got antibacterial accumulated through that garlic. It's also antifungal, right? I really need it because I live in a swampy area, right? So remember we were talking about earlier, yeast. If the dog has yeast in his back paw and it scratches the ear, well, I get less and less of those ear infections because this is also an antifungal. The reason that I feel the internet wants to discourage people from using garlic is because big pharma and big vet wants you to go to the vet and pay for their medications to fix that yeast infection rather than fix your issue with something as basic as garlic, right? Now, all I can tell you is do your homework before you feed your dog garlic. Find out the dosage and all that. I already told you what we feed and the dosage that we feed, but make sure for you to do your research on it. Prater King says, RGB, if I'm not mistaken, that was on the puppy formula they changed from tripe to goat milk. It's possible. Prater, it's possible. Again, the mere fact that you changed ingredients on a product, didn't tell anybody. To me, it becomes not just an ethical issue, it even becomes a danger, because what if RGB has a dog that's allergic to goat milk and she's thinking buying this product on a consistent basis that, it's bringing tripe and it's not bringing that. I'm just saying. It's bringing one thing and not another, and then all of a sudden, from one day to the next, you switch it up. To me, it's unethical and it's dangerous to be able to do that. So, I wish them nothing but the very best, but it's not going to be a product I will ever, sponsor or back again ever. With me, the way things work is one hiccup, and that's part of the reason why a lot of people in this community either don't agree with me or don't like the way I do things, because you hiccup one time and it's game over, right? I'm 51. I don't know everything, but in my life experience, when you screw up once, it's just a matter of time before it happens again. So I'll just leave it at that, man. XL Champ says, my dog got small bald spot at the elbows. What does this mean? What it means is the elbow, right? This is called a bony prominence. Anywhere you got bone right underneath the skin, that's called a bony prominence. And wherever your dog is lying down, whether on cement or on your tile floor or whatever, he's applying a little bit too much pressure on there, and it's going to create a bald spot. So if you start applying, say, a little bit of coconut oil or even chapstick on there, and maybe get them a couple pillows, you might see a significant change and a very easy fix. But guys, let me tell you, man, I ran out of time. We're definitely talked on allergies. Do me a favor. Somebody mentioned that they want me to do more recipe videos. Once we finish this live, listen to me. Once we finish this live, do me a favor, go into the comments. Let me know the type of videos you would want me to share, because I definitely want to share what you guys want to watch, okay? So do me a favor, just go ahead and drop that on there, and I'll make sure to review those comments and to see what I can do so I can make more videos that you guys are asking for. Either way, guys, I really appreciate you for joining me tonight on Friday Night Bully Talk. Remember, we do this every Friday at 8 p.m. CST, and we go live every Monday as well at 8 p.m. Central Standard Time. Guys, it's been Raul from the Q, catching you on the next one.